My name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is December 11th, and it's day 66. I have lots of updates in terms of what happened over the weekend. Some of them are from Haaretz, some of them are from OSHA, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Essentially, over the weekend, Israeli ground forces continued fighting throughout the Gaza Strip, and the Israeli Defense Forces said that it located and destroyed several Hamas tunnels. The IDF published a satellite photo, and it showed a rocket launch site that was supposedly near a school in southern Gaza within an army-defined safe zone. That's according to Haaretz. We do know that there is the Kerem Shalom crossing from Israel into Gaza is supposed to be reopened for the purpose of increasing the amount of aid that is able to be inspected, but that has not opened as of yet. At least that was the report from this weekend. The Israeli Defense Forces said yesterday that they attacked more than 250 Hamas targets on Sunday, and that ground forces raided the Hamas military headquarters in Gaza City's Shajaya neighborhood, which is in the north. According to OSHA, the number of displaced people is more than 1.8 million. Tens of thousands of internally displaced people have arrived in Rafah since December 3rd. They're continuing to face extremely overcrowded and dire conditions inside and outside of shelters. There are large waits for aid distribution centers, and people, particularly in the north, are in desperate need of food, water, shelter, health, and protection. There is not an adequate number of latrines. Open air defecation is widespread, which increases concerns for the spread of disease, particularly in the rainy season as it relates to flooding. On December 9th, 100 trucks was allowed in. I don't have a number of trucks for yesterday, December 10th. We do also know over the weekend on December 9th and 10th in the north and in Gaza City, Israeli forces reportedly detained hundreds of men and boys that were staying in public spaces, schools serving as shelters for IDPs, as well as private homes. Reportedly, detainees were stripped to their underwear, handcuffed, and ordered to sit on their knees in open areas. They were subjected to beatings, harassment, harsh weather, and the denial of basic necessities. There were films and images circulated over the media, and according to the Israeli military, those suspected of affiliation with Hamas were then transferred to Israel for interrogation. According to Haaretz, of the hundreds of Palestinians who were detained and photographed, handcuffed, the way I just described, only 10 to 15% are considered to be Hamas operatives or identified within the group, according to senior security officials. The IDF admitted that even though it had been necessary to strip them to ensure that they weren't carrying explosives, that circulating the photos was needless and humiliating. The death toll in Gaza is said to be now more than 18,000 Palestinians, and the number of wounded is now close to 50,000 people. And it's believed that in the last 24 hours alone, almost 300 people were killed. We're hearing that the ground invasion that's now active in South Gaza is more intense than the ground invasion that had occurred before December 1st. According to the Israeli Defense Forces, 101 Israeli soldiers have been killed in Gaza since the start of the Israeli ground operations. And we're continuing to hear reports that the IDF is issuing evacuation orders, that those orders are in a detailed map intended to facilitate evacuation, but these areas that have been designated to be like safe zones is about 30% of the Gaza Strip. They're marked for evacuation, but we've heard reports that some of those areas have actually been bombed, and the people in Gaza can't figure out where those are because that information is posted online, and all telecommunications and electricity, has been out since October 11th. There's been an electricity blackout since October 11th, except for where there are fuel reserves. Gaza's sole power plant has been depleted since that time. And so fuel is used for a limited amount of generators. And then there are some solar panels. Food insecurity continues to be a significant issue. I can give more reports on that in the days ahead. Of course, water and sanitation, as we've been talking about, there has been some slight improvement. There was a complete repair of a main water pipeline on December 9th in the Rafah governorate that had been previously damaged. And that's now providing water to about 25,000 people in the northeast area of the governorate. The repair was reported by UNICEF through the provision of pipes and other materials that had been acquired by the agency. On October 9th, there was an installation of a 10 cubic meter mobile water tank previously provided by UNICEF on the roof of Al-Aqsa University in Khan Yunis. And as a result, an additional 25,000 internally displaced people have started receiving clean water. And that tank is being regularly refilled by a nearby water well. There also has been water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities in Rafah, where some fuel was distributed on December 8th. So there are some generators that have fuel enough for the next 7 days. So there was some slight improvement in terms of access to water in those specific locations. There continues to be grave concerns about waterborne diseases due to water consumption from unsafe sources, particularly in the north, where the water desalination plant and the pipeline from Israel was shut down. There's also been no improvement for residents in the north in their access to water for drinking and for domestic purposes for weeks. I apologize. I believe I misspoke earlier. I said Rafah was in the north. Of course, Rafah is the Rafah crossing, which is the area that's towards the south, towards the Egypt border. In terms of hostilities and casualties, there has been indiscriminate rocket fire by Palestinian armed groups from Gaza towards Israel that continued over the weekend. The death toll in Israel continues to be roughly 1,200 people from predominantly on October 7th. That includes 36 children. In terms of hostages, on October 9th, the Hamas armed wing and the Israeli military stated that one Israeli hostage held in Gaza was killed, although the circumstances are unclear. During the pause that was 7 days, 86 Israeli and 24 foreign national hostages were released, and it's believed that there are still 137 people who remain captive in Gaza. Not all of them are believed to be held by Hamas. Kibbutz Be'eri announced the death in captivity in Gaza of Sahar Baruch, who was 25. She was kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th. Hamas released a video on Friday of her partly filmed a couple of weeks ago. Part of it, we do know that her brother and grandmother were also killed on October 7th. Hamas has reportedly stated that Israel will not be able to recover hostages that are still held in Gaza by force, but that will only be able to happen by a hostage or prisoner exchange, which is continuing to be pursued by Qatar and other negotiating bodies. The World Health Organization said that the impact of this ongoing hostilities on the healthcare sector in Gaza has been catastrophic. The conditions are ideal for the spread of deadly diseases. And there are also reports of limited access and also attacks on health facilities and healthcare professionals. Over the weekend, multiple health facilities and personnel were attacked across the Gaza Strip, including Gaza's Director General of Pharmacy, along with 2 other staff who were shot and injured while trying to reach the Ministry of Health's warehouses to provide medical supplies to Shifa and Al-Ali hospitals. and other health facilities in North Gaza and Gaza City. Reportedly, an ambulance rushing to the scene was also hit. And on the 9th of December, a UN and Palestinian Red Crescent Society convoy reached Ali Hospital in Gaza City, where it delivered medical supplies, and it also evacuated 19 critical patients. I have some updates on the West Bank. I think I've been going on for quite a while, so I'll give the West Bank updates tomorrow. It is thought that Israel's operations could last for an additional several weeks. Barak Ravid on Friday stated that Israel expects to end their military operation in Khan Yunis in the south in 3 to 4 weeks. The high-intensity phase of the war would likely last for another 3 to 4 weeks, he said. And while the U.S. isn't giving Israel a firm deadline to stop the operation, they would be satisfied if it ended its high-intensity phase of the operation by the end of December, but Israel is aiming for the end of January. This was reported by Axios. And so that's deeply disconcerting. And of course, the world is saying that is not good enough. Tomorrow, I'll give an update on the West Bank and also an update on some of the concerns about the broader regional escalations, of which there are many, but that's probably more than enough of an update for today. Continue to pray for peace, continue to talk in your churches about what peace building looks like, and to call for a ceasefire and an end to all violence.